Reusable ice cubes, everybody.
Reuse.
Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Christ the royal master leads against the foe. Forward into battle, see his banners go. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Oh, for a faith that will not shrink, though pressed by every foe, that will not tremble on the brink of any earthly woe, that will not murmur or complain beneath a chastening rod, but in the hour of grief or pain will lean upon its God. A faith that shines more bright and clear when tempest rage without, that when in danger knows no fear, in darkness feels no doubt. Lord, give us such a faith as this, and then whate'er may come, we'll taste and hear the hallowed bliss of an eternal home. A charge to keep I have, a God to glorify, a never-dying soul to save, and fit it for the sky, to serve the present age, my calling to fulfill. Oh, may it all my powers engage to do my Master's will. Arm me with jealous care, as in thy sight to live, and O thy servant, Lord, prepare a strict account to give. Help me to watch and pray, and on thyself rely, assured if I my trust betray, I shall forever die. Rise up, O man of God, have done with lesser things, give heart and mind and soul and strength to serve the King of Kings. Rise up, O man of God, his kingdom tarries long. Bring in the day of brotherhood and end the night of wrong. Rise up, O men of God, the church for you doth wait. Her strength unequal to her task, rise up and make her great. Lift high the cross of Christ, tread where his feet have trod, as brothers of the Son of Man, rise up, O men of God.
Good evening.
Let's edify the saints of professionalism and shenanigans. Good evening, everybody.
You're not very good at imitating CJ.
What?
I was thinking 496,
Okay.
if that's where it should be in your book. Reba, she's here. She says hi, y'all. Hi, Reba. What?
I am not gonna put the PowerPoint up just to spite the song, and I have another PowerPoint to show.
Hi, Sam. He sends a star too.
Just if anybody new is watching, that's a running joke. I have no problem with the song. Yeah, you have to watch probably a year ago to get that joke. When
You have
did
a
that?
problem with this song?
No.
What?
We have an anchor, right?
No.
496?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's embarrassing. What song are we singing?
I was going to end up pretty bad. But now that you have that in mind, I might keep that one for later. But no, this one in this book is Where He Leads Will Follow.
That is so funny.
Now you're like, whoa, hallelujah.
Wow. Well, that was funny how I set it all up and said I don't have a problem with this song. It's a running joke and it's not even a song.
Yep.
Where he leads us 498 in my book.
Really? Oh, that's stupid. Sam says, yes, I do have an anchor. Well, that's very good. You're going to need to keep it. Don't be throwing it at CJ.
I think we'll have time to sing some songs today. We don't have a lot left in chapter 18 of Acts.
Sweet are the promises tied to the word, dearer more than any message man ever heard. Pure was the mind of Christ, sinless I see. He, the great example, is and pattern for me. Where he leads, I'll follow, follow all the way. Where he leads, I'll follow Jesus every day. Sweet is the tender love Jesus has shown, sweeter far than any love that mortals have known. Kind to the erring one, faithful is he, the great example is and pattern for me. Where he leads, I'll follow, all the way. Where he leads, I'll follow Jesus every day. This to his loving words come unto Weary, heavy laden, there is sweet rest for thee. Trust in his promises, faithful. Lean upon the Savior, and thy soul is secure. Weary feet so follow, follow away. Weary feet so follow Jesus every day.
All right. We'll probably do some more singing after class, but let's get into it.
Have you been knocking your head on wood?
Yeah, knock on wood.
Knock on wood. No, you know there's a joke about that, right? There's a joke about a guy who knocked on wood, and it was he knocks on the table about something or other. Let's hope that works well, and it ends up killing him. And he gets into heaven. He's before God. He's like, "What's the matter? What? I knocked on wood. Where's the luck?" And God looks at him, tells him, "You knocked on oak. You knocked on oak. That's the joke. Knock on wood, knock on pine, feeling fine."
That's funny.
Knock on oak. That's the joke. Knock on pine, you're feeling fine.
That's funny. All right, Shane, take us away.
Well, we will be beginning today in Acts 18. I think I've seen Rebo just throw up a whole bunch of laughing faces. We'll be in Acts 18, chapter 24. But first, some events sort of to bring us up to speed.
Acts 18, chapter 24.
Yes, guaranteed. Verse 24.
That's better.
There you go. Yep, it was Reba.
By the way, I have a map of the places when you get to it, just so you know.
Okay. And kind of a little bit of a recap going on right here. Paul, he finished what he was doing in Athens, where he was talking with the Epicureans and the Stoics. Yep. He finished there in Athens and departed and came to Corinth, and he found Jews named Aquila and Priscilla, and they became good buddies with him. They were both tent makers, and he stayed with both Aquila and Priscilla. And once again, like in 18 verse 4, we find him doing something we find Paul doing very often through this book. He is always there reasoning in the synagogue every Sabbath or the place of prayer. And it just kind of always rekindles my fire because we always see Paul. You'd think this get old after a while, go to here, sit in the synagogue and talk with everybody. You go over here, sit in the synagogue, talk with everybody. But here he is, he just keeps on doing this every place he goes, spreading the word. I like Paul. But he's there persuading Jews and Greeks. Then Silas and Timotheus from Macedonia join him. Join him, and then we had, what was it? Didn't we spend a great deal of time last time in this area? Looking at the different versions of how they translated.
I think it was the last section.
Oh, yeah, it's a little bit on.
Yeah, you're supposed to be reviewing 18 through 23.
I figured I'd go to the start of the chapter. Just kind
Ah,
of skim it. Because last time I went deep into, I went back halfway into 17 and came through. You know, just figured
yeah.
I'd do something. In case they haven't been with us for a few episodes or so.
Go ahead.
Picky, picky, picky. I love CJ.
Go ahead.
Anyways, so he spends some time with that bunch and ends up staying with a guy by the name of Justice, who worshipped God, and his house was next to the synagogue, so that's kind of like perfect location for Paul. And he ends up being tattled on and beaten, I think it was. Crispus. Oh, the chief of the synagogue believed the Lord, so many of the Corinthians there were converted. And due to some supposed unrest and bumps, you could say, in the relationship with Corinth, God tells Paul by night, "Be not afraid. Hold not thy peace. Speak, for I am with thee." And so God tells Paul, "There's nothing to worry about. Keep on preaching."
Oh, yeah, this is where we were last week.
Yes.
Fine. Go
Uh, you make this too much fun.
ahead.
And so Paul stays there a year and 6 months teaching the word of God. So he must have found some pretty fertile ground. Oh yeah, this is where the issue was. Yeah. Basically, the Jews didn't like what Paul was doing, naturally, brought him to the judgment seat. And they raised up a familiar accusation. I seem to remember something along those lines before regarding a couple of masters and their servants that brought them much gain. But anyways, he said these guys claimed to the, what is it, Galileo? Yeah, I think it was Galileo.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yep, Galileo. What a name. Ends up telling Galileo, hey, this guy, he's persuading men to worship something that's contrary to the law. Which, he wasn't wrong. And Paul was barred to open his mouth to defend himself. And Galileo tells the Jews, back off, this is boring.
Basically.
If it was a matter of right or wrong, I would care. But it's something of your Jews with your words and names, as he describes it. Your stupid words and names. Which I reckon to a non-Jew would be very confusing, don't you?
Yeah.
Do this, and this said this. Yeah, yeah. The words and the names would get so confusing. And so Galileo says, if it's not a matter of right or wrong, but of your dorky words and names, look ye into it, he says, for I will be no judge of such matters. And he drove them all from the judgment seat. And the Greeks took Sosthenes, the chief ruler of that synagogue, and beat him for the judgment seat, and Galileo cared for none of those things. And then we find in section starting in 18, we have a lot of Paul and his travelings again, which, as I recall, last week we kind of quickly went through this because there's not a lot in here.
Yeah, what you're talking about, I'll go through these animations so we can track where he went again. So go ahead.
Okay, so you want me to list every place he went?
Yeah, start from 19 and quickly run us down to 23.
Okay. So he left from there, went to Ephesus. left them there, but he entered into the synagogue and reasoned with the Jews. Once again, we find Paul in the synagogue. And they wanted him to stay for a long while, but he didn't. He consented not, but bade them farewell, saying, I must by all means keep this feast in Jerusalem. But I will return again, if God will. And so he leaves Ephesus. Then Paul goes to Caesarea. Saluted the church, he went down to Antioch. And then after he had spent some time there, he departed and went over all the country of Galatia. Or is it Galatia or Galatia?
I think it's Glacier. Maybe it's Glacia.
Anyways, and Pergia, in order, and strengthened all of his brethren. So that brings us up to current.
Right. So, how about you end the chapter by reading 24 through 28, and we'll talk about it.
Okay. Now, see, that didn't take too long.
No, it didn't. It was a good review.
And a certain Jew named Apollos, born at Alexandria, an eloquent man, and mighty in the scriptures, came to Ephesus. This man was instructed in the way of the Lord, and being fervent in the Spirit, he spake and taught diligently the things of the Lord, knowing only the baptism of John. And he began to speak boldly in the synagogue, whom, when Aquila and Priscilla had heard, they took him unto them, and expounded unto him the way of God more perfectly. And when he was disposed to pass into Achaia, the brethren wrote, exhorting the disciples to receive him, who when he was come helped them much which had believed through grace. For he mightily convinced the Jews, and that publicly, showing by the scriptures that Jesus was Christ.
Alright, so thank you. So in verse 24, we see that there is a man from Alexandria, a Jew named Apollos, and he is described as an eloquent man and mighty in the scriptures. This guy knows the law of Moses. He's a Jew and he is mighty in the scriptures when he comes to Ephesus. This means he's teaching the law of Moses. And also in verse 25, we read that this man was instructed in the way of the Lord. We don't know who was his teacher, but he was taught the law of Moses, and being fervent in spirit, he spake and taught diligently the things of the Lord.
And just looking into things.
Well,
Gifted with learning.
right, so he has experience. He's fluent in the scriptures. He's skilled in literature and the arts, especially versed in history and the antiquities. So this man knew what he was talking about when it came to the law of Moses. And if we go to verse 25, there's a problem. He knows the law of Moses, but he's speaking taught diligently the things of the Lord, knowing only the baptism of John. He was coming up short. Do you remember what Paul was teaching back in chapter 18, verse 8? He was teaching people to be baptized in the name of Christ. And so Apollos is somewhat undoing some of this work and he's teaching people the baptism of John, and he's very sincere.
Bonus points for effort.
He's a sincere man. Now, was his teaching always wrong? Well, no, it was correct uh, many years ago, but Jesus came and the baptism of John was pointing to Jesus. We'll see this. This is kind of the background for what Paul deals with when he comes back to Corinth. The effect that this man had, but we'll see that next week. So this man is eloquent. This man can speak. He's not stupid. He's zealous, fervent in spirit, but he's wrong. And he's teaching people, and one day in verse 26, he comes to a synagogue. And when the Christians, Aquila and Priscilla, had heard him, they took him unto them and expounded unto him the way of God more perfectly. Now, who were Priscilla and Aquila? Well, 18 verse 2, people who lived in Corinth, Jewish Christians who were tent makers with Paul, verse 3, and were fellowshipping with Paul. And so they're in the city, and they hear this guy teaching, and they don't do a couple of things. They don't stand up and say, I object, he's wrong, get him out of here. They don't gossip about him. Do you see what this guy's teaching? The Bible says this. We shouldn't listen to him. They also didn't start a revolt and cause a split in the synagogue. Many of times, that's what would have happened. That's what would have happened when Paul was teaching. When Paul was teaching a few times, there is an account. Sorry, you really distracted me with all your
I'm trying not to.
scrolling and sorry. I'll give it to you in just a minute after I do verse 26. Many times when the Jews were against Paul, there would be a riot. They would cause a division, a schism within the synagogue against Paul and Barnabas. We've seen that back in chapter, I think, 16. We've seen this even in this chapter, actually, in chapter 18, verse 5 and 6, where Paul had explained to the Jews Jesus as the Christ, and there's this big opposition and blasphemy in verse 6. There's a big hubbub. Well, they didn't do that. Aquila and Priscilla heard this man, and what did they do? Hosea.
What?
What if Aquila and Priscilla didn't riot, didn't make a public example, what did they do?
They took him aside and explained it to him gently. They didn't go, grab your pitchforks, let's run him out of town.
That's right. That's what happened in Acts chapter 13, was it, when Paul was in Lyconium? No, Lystra and Derbe, he was thrown out. Yeah, they were very kind and took him aside and expounded unto him the way of God more perfectly. Now we need to learn a lesson from that. The lesson here is not everybody needs the hammer. Aquila and Priscilla didn't hammer away at Apollos. Like you often say, some people need the hammer, but some people need a scalpel. And they used the scalpel. They were very gentle. Before I move on, do you have any? What do you see in this, Shay?
Well, the phrase we use isn't hammer and scalpel around here. It's some people need whacked in the head with a 2x4, and other people need tickled underneath the armpit with a feather. You gotta be more gentle with some set of people.
Right.
And other people around here are really stubborn, in case you haven't figured that out. Some people need whacked in the head with a 2x4.
Right.
Now, I was going to say a little bit on Apollos, an eloquent man. He wasn't, I think the biggest thing to grab out of that is he wasn't your common fisherman. Like, a lot of the disciples,
Right.
common people, or fishermen or stuff. People who didn't have a perfect level in lettering, how to write. People who weren't exactly the most fluent in history. They just were subpar. But here we have Apollos, an eloquent man and mighty in the scriptures. So he knew what he was talking about, and all the Jews knew that he knew what he was talking about. He knew his history down to facts. He was basically a scribe. What we would call a scribe. He knew what he was talking about.
At least he was a proclaimer. We don't know if he was exactly a scribe of the law of Moses.
Right. Well, remember, a scribe is simply someone who spends a lot of time with their ink and pen.
Right.
Because scribe just means it's someone you have around to write things down. They used them all the time in medieval ages. Write that down. You go to your scribes to go get stuff written down, like laws. That was their job. They spent all their time in words and how to phrase things. So that's what I mean by him being basically a scribe.
Kind of like a scribe. We don't know if he wrote any of this down or if he just studied the law. But yeah, I see what you're saying though. Ezra, in the book of Ezra, is described as a study of the law and a scribe, so that could be connected there. Well, I think that's in Ezra 7.
What is it doing? That's not. Oh, that's I'm in the wrong place. Wow.
Ezra.
Here, let me head to Ezra 7. Yeah, Ezra was a scribe.
Right, but the point I'm trying to draw out is, to your point, scribes were typically connected to being well studied, as was 7.
Misclick.
As a 7, and it'll be uh, so verse 6, yeah, go ahead.
This Ezra went up from Babylon, and he was a ready scribe in the law of Moses, which the Lord God of Israel had given. And the king granted him all his requests according to the hand of the Lord his God upon him.
And then you go to verse 10. Verse 6 says he is a scribe, and notice what he's doing in the verse 10. Go ahead.
For Ezra had prepared his heart to seek the law of the Lord and to do it, and to teach in Israel statutes and judgments.
So to your point, he may Apollos may have been just like Ezra, scribe of the law, because that's connected there in Ezra 7. But so we look at where am I here?
Um,
So there's go ahead.
I was just going to hit a little bit more on the eloquence. It means to be skilled in literature and the arts, especially versed in history and antiquities. You didn't have such a thing as a dumb scribe.
Right.
They learned quick what they needed to. They became top notch, as we would say today.
Right.
They were the best when it came to knowing what went on. But I was just trying to use that a bit as a correlation. He was basically a scribe, but he was out there boldly proclaiming, being fervent.
Yeah.
So
Good point. And that ties well into what Ezra is described as, who is in fact a scribe, and he's described as studying the law and doing it and teaching. So verse 27 says, when he desired to cross to Achaia, the brethren wrote exhorting the disciples to receive him, and when he arrived, he greatly helped those who had believed through grace. And so what's interesting, well, let's finish up the chapter. For he vigorously refuted the Jews publicly, verse 28, thank you, showing from the scriptures that Jesus is the Christ. Couple of things here. What's interesting about Apollos is we don't have a recorded. Luke doesn't think it's important for us to know whether or not he was baptized. But my suspicion is he probably was. And why do I say that? Well, it's what he did. He took the advice, and then he went to Achaia, and he is he is commended by Aquila and Priscilla, the disciples to receive him. And that's the same thing that happened to Paul when he was converted. Barnabas took him under his wing and said, he's been converted, you can trust him. And so that's one reason. And another reason why we can another reason he probably was baptized. You can But from verse 28, his message changed. In Achaia, and I'll show that on the map in a second, Apollos went down and he refuted the Jews publicly, showing from the scriptures that Jesus is the Christ. Before, if you look at verse 25, his message was focused on the baptism of John. Now, in verse 28, his focus is moving to the Jews that Jesus is Christ, and what is involved in teaching Jesus? Well, we know his baptism in Acts 2, and Acts 8, and Acts 10, Acts 11.
It goes
Then,
on.
go ahead.
Just gonna say it goes on and on and on.
Right. So that's another strong evidence to believe that he was baptized, because the preaching of Jesus includes baptism and all the many messages. And so here is where here's where Apollos went. He was in Corinth. Come on now.
You can do it.
I'm trying to get my my laser pointer, but it's not.
Sam says that oak of all oak.
There we go.
He's listening. Remember, y'all, this is a study. Feel free to chime in if you got anything to say on the matters.
Right. So he was here in Corinth, here, and now he goes up to. Now he just goes up a little bit. Apollos is now in Achaia right here. I don't know what. Yeah, you can see the point.
Yeah. I'm wondering where the arrow above Galatia came from.
Well, that was when verse 23, how he Paul departed from Corinth and went throughout the regions of Galatia and Perga. I just misclicked. I did too many clicks back.
You just slapped an arrow on it.
Yeah, so
That
that's what I have on chapter. What?
Sorry to interrupt you. Ignore the arrow.
Well, that was for a different point. I had different things circled on here.
Yeah. Just tell Sam, ignore the arrow.
What? Sorry.
Just telling Sam, ignore the arrow.
Oh.
All right, finish.
So I was just gonna say that's what I have on this section. You see anything else in there? In those verses?
I see perhaps a few things that can be just kind of touched on, tickled with a little bit more.
Go ahead.
I wanted to hit a little bit on, where is it? This one. This phrase right here, he spoke and taught accurately the things of the Lord. So we know that Apollos was not wrong. We're told he wasn't exactly wrong. He taught accurately, although he only taught accurately up to the baptism of John, which was the problem. He couldn't teach any farther because no one else had explained to him anything farther.
Right.
So I just want to tickle with that part a little bit. And
yeah, and notice what the end of verse 26 says. It doesn't. No, more accurately.
More accurately.
It's not that Columbus taught him all over again because he was dead wrong.
Right.
Just adding to his understanding. Great point.
Right. Yeah, he just, as we say at work, missed it by that much. That's what he did.
Sam
And
says, go ahead, you can read that.
I was like, "Are you sure you really want to try a Sammy's there, CJ?" Sam says maybe he heard John, but was there when Jesus showed up. I wonder how long ago did Jesus died, buried, and resurrection. Who taught John's baptism? And, and who taught John's baptism?
We are many years removed from when Christ died and was buried and was raised, Sam.
If you if you just look at the map, the travel distance alone between places like Galatia and Corinth took weeks. You know,
I don't know the exact number of years. There's probably a way to find that out. Probably,
I'm sure someone's calculated it all out.
yeah, but we read this and we're at a disadvantage. Sometimes when we read, we think, okay, it takes me 30 minutes to get through uh, the end of John, and then like 5 minutes to get through the first half of Acts. And so we sometimes have a skewed perception of how long these events are taking place.
I can
Well,
tell you one thing: it happened a year and 30 days and 6 months afterwards, for sure. Because that's
right.
how long Paul stayed in Corinth.
I'm sure there's other time markers in here too. Uh,
Right? Where is that at? There it
the-
is. Verse 11. Paul continued there a year and 6 months. But yeah, there's different time markers, and if you were to go through the hassle of figuring out how long it took to sail from here to there and there to here, and how long land travel was, you could get a pretty close, accurate depiction uh, on how long after Christ's resurrection this is.
right. Well, you got anything else?
I was going to touch a little bit more on your. He was probably baptized. Well, in my simple little mind, it would figure that what is it? Aquila and Priscilla recommending the brothers to receive him would
Right.
mean that he became a brethren himself.
Well, that's kind of what happened in chapter 9 when Barnabas did the same thing to Paul. He was already a brother.
Yeah. And, Barnabas kind of had to really poke and get everybody on board with the Paul is no longer killing Christians deal.
Right.
Paul had to overcome that reputation. That was the reputation Paul had set for himself at that time, and here we had a 360 or whatever life change. No, 180. 360 is back to the same point, isn't it?
Yeah.
180 life change. And so Paul had to overcome that. It was just came with the situation, you could say. Sam says, we were talking some time ago, as O'Shea said, the travel distance alone makes far from where the event of Christ dying. But News still spread today. Amen. Yeah, this is one rumor that's been running around for a long time, right, CJ?
It's amazing when you read through Acts. At every point, you're like, okay, is this the time when the gospel dies out? Have they got him beat? I mean, they're beaten, they're arrested, they're shut up, they're persecuted. But at every hint of persecution in the book of Acts, they get stronger. The gospel spreads farther.
Faster. What?
Well, that's all I had to say.
Oops. Sorry. What?
Well,
Oh. Okay.
is there any questions or comments from y'all?
Yep. I have fun doing this. I don't know about y'all, but I have fun.
Yes,
I'm not sure if it was obvious or not. And I really don't mean to distract you when I start looking up definitions. I just get wild hairs, So what exactly does that mean? I mean, I have an idea. But
yeah. I'm not trying to be mean when I say that, but I have a hard time collecting my thoughts as is. And I'm like, what's he doing on screen?
You're like, ooh.
No, don't squirrel, CJ. Don't squirrel.
You're like, ooh. What's he doing this time? Choo choo, that train got derailed. Sam says, I believe every soul is aware of Christ, my opinion, but not every soul came to Christ. That's an interesting idea to consider, especially when you consider that God is the source of the soul. So at one point in time, you can say that the soul did know God.
That's right.
Because God's the one that put it in here. Interesting idea to consider.
You can easily know God. Paul makes that point in Romans 1 by the things that he's made, and we'll touch on that more in June when we start a new class.
You wouldn't know anything about the Book of Romans, would you?
No. But just to plug to this week, we will, Lord willing, finish up that study this Saturday at 9:20, and then we'll take a few weeks break and come back in June, the summertime, and I'm not gonna give away what we're studying just yet, but there'll be an ad for it next Tuesday so that y'all can purchase the book if you want to. It'll be one of the another workbook study, and I want to give plenty of time for people to purchase the book if they wish, so that we can all have it. But anyways,
Reba, wake up! I believe you had a song on your slides. Maybe was it? I think you mentioned something about having, or was you just your slides occupied by your map?
no, I didn't have songs on my slides.
Now, no, Sam, you can't be prying away like that.
No.
You would actually get CJ to fall for that giveaway. Oh, yeah, this is
I'm just saying there will be a new study in June on Tuesdays at 9:20. We're gonna change the day and see if that helps our viewership. Is it my turn to get a song for us?
I figured you'd pick the last song, provided no one else threw up one in the next 5 seconds. Think deeply, my friend.
No, Sam. I'm not gonna do it.
Good job, Sam. 5 stars.
121. 122.
Make up your mind.
I find myself going back to this song at the end of streams. And then actually let's do 146 first. That same song. Have Thine Own Way. Because I want that to be a very last one.
Let's go see.
Do you need me to help you with the melody?
We'll find out. Have thine own way, Lord. Have thine own way.
No, that's Teach Me Thy Way. That's that tune. What?
You're such a bummer, you know that?
Not my fault. Have thine own way, Lord. Have thine own way. Thou
I am the clay.
Lord,
make me after thy will. I am waiting, yielded and still.
Have thine own way, Lord. Have thine own way. Search me and try me,
Master, today.
Whiter than snow,
Lord, wash me just now, as in thy presence humbly I bow.
Have thine own way, Lord. Have thine own way. Hold on my being. Absolute way. Fill with thy spirit.
Till all shall see Christ only, always living in me.
Amen. We should always want God to have his way in us. 122. Have you learned the song yet?
Nope.
I lead this pretty much every time I end a stream now. I like to end it this way. Now the day is over, night is drawing nigh. Shadows of the evening steal across the sky. Jesus scares the weary, calm and sweet repose. With thy tenderest
See,
blessing,
may
may
arrive in
rose. When the morning rain comes, then may thy love arise. Your unforsaken with in my holy eyes. Thank you all for being here. I've enjoyed it. I enjoy spending time with you, Shay, and you all.
Are you sure?
I love those that love the Lord. Yes, even me. Thank you for your interest in spiritual things, and it's encouraging. Thank you all. And remember, here at CM, we have 3 things we want to do. We want to glorify God. We want to edify you, the saints, and we want to answer any spiritual questions you may have. Thank you all, and God bless.
Thank you all for being here, for your participation, for your comments. It's always a pleasure to see you all here. Till we meet again, God bless you all. Love you. Bye bye. Apparently, Reba fell asleep.